Hello everybody, it's Ori the Fanfic Guy here, back with part 2 of what would have happened if Naruto had convinced Haku to join the Leaf. Now in the last video you all showed me a lot of love by liking, subscribing, and even messaging me about what you thought about the video, so I want to take a moment to say thank you to everybody. It meant a lot and blew me away really. In the last part, Haku got to Zabuza's side much faster, giving Zabuza a chance to save Haku, but with Zabuza deciding to save Haku instead of himself, Kakashi was left impaling Zabuza, leaving Haku alone but alive. The moments afterwards saw Gato's gang fleeing, and Naruto more or less pleading for Haku to join them on their way back to the Leaf. With nowhere to go, and Kakashi more or less okay with it, Haku's adventure with Team 7 began. After the bridge battle, Haku managed to gather the courage to ask an important question of Team 7. He was sad and filled with anguish, but he turned on the team and asked, "Would it be alright if I buried him?" The team stood silent for a bit, taking in the question, before Kakashi managed an answer. "Yes, that will be just fine. Do you need a hand?" Haku, being ever considerate and wanting to take the important task upon himself, shook his head no, and merely asked for a shovel. In the hours that followed, he had dug a hole for the large man, hoisted his body above his shoulders, and then placed him in the hole. When time to start covering the hole back, Naruto intervened. "No, I'm not letting you do that alone." Haku's eyes widened a bit as he watched Naruto walk up with a shovel, but before he could even think to object, Naruto was already shoveling dirt. And without a word, the two boys had covered the hole together. "Do you want to say any words?" Naruto asked. Haku stood there, quietly, and shook his head. The two boys were quiet for a while, before Kakashi walked over. The older ninja seemed to be paying his own respects to Zabuza. He hadn't really fought Zabuza out of any malice, just merely a result of the system. When enough time had passed, the trio returned to the rest of the members of Team 7. The next few days transpire a lot like in the original timeline, with the following exceptions. The bridge's completion goes off without a hitch, and the rest of the team recuperates. But as they're leaving, Gato and the gang try to make one last pass on the bridge builders. At first this infuriates Haku, who just at the sight of these men is enraged. But Kakashi steps in, and now in this fresh and recuperated state, he's more than capable of taking on even a large group of bandits and thugs. With a simple shadow clone jutsu, he produces a number significant enough to startle them, and then presses an attack on them immediately. Bandits are thrown around and defeated almost before Gato has time to react, and as Gato tries to flee, he's pinned down with his arm tied behind his back, Kakashi kneeling into it, threatening him. "If I hear you're back here, you'll be seeing me very soon." With that, Gato is left to flee with his tail between his legs. The whole exchange impresses Haku, not because Kakashi is overwhelmingly strong, but because Kakashi stood up for him immediately. With the bandits fleeing, Kakashi turned to Haku and said, "At least for the time being, you're with us." And so the Land of Waves arc concludes, and Team 7, with Haku in tow, completes their mission and quickly returns to the village hidden in the Leaf. Upon being stopped by the gate to find out who Haku is, the team is swiftly sent to the Hokage to explain and give their mission report. The third Hokage sat in his office. Before him was Team 7, who stood patiently and quietly waiting to hear what his verdict was on the report, and Haku being present. A lot of nodding, mm-hmming, and just general gesturing as he flipped through pages that seemed to drag on for a bit before Naruto sighed and exasperated. "Can we hear what the verdict is already?" The third Hokage's eyes shot over the stack of papers he was holding and stared Naruto down, freezing him in place. "The boy before you was an actual threat and tried to kill you and your team multiple times." Kakashi closed his eyes and slowly nodded. Naruto, seeing the way the conversation was going, widened his eyes. "No, Haku's not like that. He's a good person." Naruto, wait. Let the third finish. "So why should we accept him into the village?" Kakashi took a good look at his students and then at Haku, and then said, "During the battle, Haku was able to fight both Naruto and Sasuke without the intent to kill them to a standstill. He chose not to kill them. Naruto's vouching for him. I'm vouching for him. I believe that's more than enough. I believe it would be worse to turn our backs on him." The third eyed Haku once more. And you are intent to stay here, to live amongst the leaf and protect it. To which Haku responded, I am. That's what I hope to do. I don't know how well I'll do it, but I will try. And with that, the third sighed, before giving a stamp of approval on the mission, and Haku's acceptance as a citizen of the Leaf. The room was filled with Naruto's chairs and Sakura clapping, with Sasuke trying to act cool in the corner, and Kakashi just casually watching the event. The group was happy to celebrate at Ichiraku's, taking Haku out for his first ramen, an experience that he had never had before. Sitting him down for that first bowl of ramen really blew him away, which is why Naruto didn't hesitate to ask for seconds, not just for him, but for Haku as well. It being his first time at all, he had to make sure that Haku got the right treatment on Kakashi's dime. Haku was set up with a small rental in the same building as Naruto, and it was deemed that his stay was probationary, and during that time, he would be Kakashi's ward. Shortly thereafter, the Chunin exams began, with Team 7 coming together in about the same fashion as the original. You get the same interactions between Sasuke and Rock Lee, with Naruto asking to not be overlooked, then Rock Lee's reveal of Neji to be stronger than him, as well as the reintroduction of all the other Genin teams. Phase 1 of the exam goes more or less the same, with Phase 2 also not being that different, as Haku's involvement here would have been impossible. So while Team 7 is going through the forest of death, Haku would have been trying to get acclimated to the Leaf Village, slowly getting to know people, spending some of his time at Ichiraku's, being more familiar with the people that he'd be trying to live and protect. This would have greatly impacted his time there, as up to this point Haku's only known brutality, and now he has people who genuinely are just kind. Kakashi spends all of this time showing Haku around the Leaf Village, making him feel at home as much as he can, sharing with him a sentiment that he knows very well. I can understand what it's like to feel it necessary to turn away from your emotions. And the sentiment itself jars Haku. But once Haku sees the look in Kakashi's eyes, he sees a familiarity. I've been down that road before. You can't go there. The two don't speak much more after that before they themselves have to make their way to the Chunin exams. Haku being Kakashi's ward means he has to sit in at the Chunin exams. He can't leave his side. When we get to the preliminary fights, Haku is right there for all of the action. Team 7 is genuinely happy to see Haku on the sidelines. However, we get a moment where Haku is dressed in his plain clothes. The only plain clothes he currently has is his feminine wear, which throws off all the other Genins because they immediately believe Haku is a female. So when Haku volunteers to give Naruto first aid, this confuses quite a few people. Even Kurenai makes a joke about Hinata maybe even having a little competition, which Sakura clears up eventually by saying Haku is their new friend, and he is really nice. Haku had even gone so far to say he liked Sakura's new hair when he saw her. But as the matches wore on, Haku could be heard making little comments to himself, and when pressed by Kakashi on what he was muttering, he said, I was just thinking that they're not making optimal moves. The remark struck Kakashi as odd, but then made sense almost immediately. Haku fought alongside Zabuza, a man who didn't give much space for error. Watching these kids fight must have seemed like child's play. When it came to Naruto's fight, he could see Haku wide-eyed. You think he's doing that bad, huh? He's just not making good decisions or what makes sense, said Haku. That's true. He is the #1 most unpredictable ninja, said Kakashi. Before long, Naruto won his fight, and it wasn't long after that the preliminaries were over. Only a few fights even beginning to impress Haku. While earning his place as a member of the Leaf, Haku still felt like an outsider. He couldn't really understand why people were getting upset about that one girl getting hit, but he understood that Naruto was upset, and that he didn't like. So in the days that followed, he could see Naruto training. He even had seemed to take up training with a strange old man. This man, of course, is Jiraiya, one of the 3 Sannin, who in the month before the 3rd phase of the Chunin exam trained Naruto. Naruto and Jiraiya's training had taken an interesting turn, and because Kakashi was busy training Sasuke, Kakashi had seen to it that it would be okay for Jiraiya to act as Haku's ward while he trained Naruto, making it much easier for Haku to still stay around Naruto and not be a threat to the village, if anyone even saw Haku as a threat anymore. This was merely done to ease the worries of the bureaucrats of the Leaf Village. but also so that Haku could stay around Naruto. While he watched Naruto training, Haku noted a lot of things about Naruto. He had an immense amount of chakra, and the man training him was far more skilled than he actually was perceived to be. And even if it never seemed like it, Naruto had a knack for learning things quite quickly. The only thing that seemed to deter him was whether or not he found it interesting, and this infuriated Haku. Slowly over the first few days, it boiled up even more and more, until one day, Haku caught himself yelling out, "Just take it seriously!" He clasped his hands over his mouth, trying to catch the yell that he had let loose. Naruto stood shocked, and Jiraiya began laughing aloud. "Hey, what do you mean, Haku? I am trying." But now it was too late, and with that, Haku continued, "No, you could do so much more." Jiraiya gave a nod indicating for Haku to step forward, and with that, Haku stepped forward and began talking about chakra natures and different elements, and his own abilities and how he had used them in the fight with Naruto. He tried to relate it to Naruto in a way that made sense, and Jiraiya understood this. Sometimes, students work better when they're closer in age, and he knew to chime in when necessary, and this made the training go much, much faster. Having a student who was closer to Naruto's age, who could help to bridge that gap between him and Naruto, made Naruto a much more accessible student and much more open to learning, such that Jiraiya was open to teaching Naruto more techniques even in such a compressed time limit. Within that month time period, Jiraiya and Haku had explained chakra natures, and had even discovered that Naruto's chakra nature was the wind. They had even begun working on basic wind techniques, something that was even more possible with Haku there, who was a skilled practitioner of the ice bloodline limit, or Kekkei, which utilized water and wind. By the time the final phase of the exam rolled around, Naruto was confident he had a handle on at least one wind jutsu. Alright everybody, that is going to do it for part 2 of what if Naruto had convinced Haku to join the Leaf Village. So what do you guys think is going to happen with the rest of the Chunin exams? What wind style jutsu do you think Naruto is going to have? Do you think Haku's presence is going to affect Orochimaru and the Sand Village's attack? Let me know. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for all the support so far. It's been amazing. I'm Ori the Fanfic Guy, and I will see you.